A little bunny is in a basket and is being taken somewhere. It hears people saying that this place is further into the Black Panther territory, and so they decide to take care of the situation. They wonder how one doesn't turn into a human being after the coming of age ceremony, referring to the bunny. They say that this has been like a curse from the god of animals. The bunny realizes they are talking about her. Her mother had yelled at her and asked why she hadn't turned into a human yet. She had also said that her brother, Kyrie, has already become a full-fledged human and asked her why she hasn't turned into one yet. She says that everyone turns into a human after 3 years, and yet the bunny hasn't been able to. The bunny had apologized and thought it was all her fault. She wonders if she prays to the Lord, then maybe someday her wish would be granted and she'd be turned into a full-fledged human. Everyone had said it seemed to be a curse and that it was useless and tried to abandon her for not being a human. The bunny feels sad that this is the price of not being a human. She hears voices saying they reached a place that seems too far from the territorial border. Then, they say that the bunny in the basket must be placed so deep in the forest so it won't cause any trouble, and that it must die at the hands of the Black Panthers. The bunny also hears them say that they can just cut a bit of grass that only grows in the Black Panther territory and take it back with them as evidence. Another voice says that it is a bit too deep in the forest and crossing enemy boundaries is dangerous. So, they plan to put the basket down and leave the bunny there. The bunny hops around in the basket, hoping they don't leave her alone in a place like this. She says that she would try to become a human and wishes they don't leave her here by herself. Suddenly, she hears a strange noise and birds fly away in fear. The bunny wonders what that sound is and covers her face and hides in fear. Soon, a hand reaches into the basket and picks her up gently. The bunny looks up with fear to see that it's a man with a sword. She immediately realizes he's a Black Panther. She thinks he is going to eat her alive and tries to fidget and escape his hold. She asks him to let her go and the guy notices that she's crying. The bunny frustratedly asks if he has never seen a rabbit cry. The guy then says that she should cry even more, leaving the bunny shocked. She thinks that he must be crazy. And that was how the little bunny, Vivi Levian, entered the Black Panther world. The slender little bunny's survival in the beast's den starts now. The bunny's name is Vivi Levian. She is a prestigious rabbit from the Levian family. For some unknown reason, she wasn't able to turn human in her first 18 years, so her parents threw her in the Black Panther territory. Vivi thinks this was probably because they hated to see her as a bunny. Vivi finds herself on a fancy and ornate bed. She wonders where she is. She remembers the bad memories of what took place before she had lost consciousness. She wonders why in the world he brought her here. In her mind, she fears that the Black Panther would eat her. After having thoughts and images of him eating her, she angrily rubs her paws on the bed and thinks that she must get a hold of herself and escape. She stands at the edge of the bed and jumps off, in hopes of freedom, only to be caught by someone. The person says it was so close and asks her how she could be so reckless. He says that Master Ahin was careless too, to throw this bunny on the bed. Vivi notes his red eyes and canine teeth. He tells her this is his first time seeing her and asks her where she came from. Vivi is overcome with fear as she's face to face with another Black Panther. Vivi keeps quiet without making any sounds, so the man asks if she's mute. She wriggles in his hands, wanting him to let go. He puts her down on the floor saying that it would be safer. He then calls her Miss Bunny and tells her that she shouldn't be careless and hurt herself, especially because she's now Master Ahin's possession. Vivi wonders why he called her Miss and what he means by her being the Master's possession. He also says that she must always maintain cleanliness since Ahin placed her in his room as a special emergency food supply. The bunny is overcome with anger and shock. Soon, the bunny faints and the servant, Evren, has called a physician to take a look at her. He lets Evren know that the bunny just fainted from shock and its heartbeat seems normal, and there's nothing wrong with it. Evren then asks if the bunny has a real appearance because it seems intelligent enough to understand his speech. The physician says he can't sense pheromones of an animal kin from her, and if at all she was an animal kin, she would have turned into her human appearance by now. Evren suggests that maybe it's a baby animal kin that hasn't had a transformation yet. The physician says that's not possible as human transformation is something that would occur within the first 3 years of birth, and there's no way a baby animal would be able to move as adeptly as the rabbit just did. Vivi is worried that she might have moved around with ease too much and shown them she understood their words. She wonders if they'd let her go if she lets them know that she's an animal kin. But then she remembers that there are many scholars within the territory who might turn her into a test subject when they discover she's an animal kin who failed human transformation. The physician asks Evren if Ahin brought the rabbit just to eat it, and Evren says that's what he believes. Vivi is mad that Ahin brought her all the way to this fancy room just to have her as a snack. When his work is done, the physician gets ready to leave, and in her mind, Vivi sadly asks him to not leave her alone with this weird man. After he leaves, Evren gets close to her and tells her that her eyes are twitching and that she should wake up now or they would serve her as an appetizer at the dining table. Hearing this, Ten shoots up, feeling startled. Evren then introduces himself to Ten as Rud Evren, the servant for Master Ahin who brought her to this residence. She looks up at him and Evren says there must be a reason Ahin brought her. Evren says that because she seemed to be able to understand human language, he thought she must have been a magical beast at first even though she looked ordinary in appearance. Vivi angrily thinks that she knows she looks ordinary but there's no reason to emphasize it. Then, Ahin walks into the room and Evren goes to greet him. Ahin asks Evren why he's here. Evren says he's here to look after the bunny. Ahin then asks whether Evren verified if the bunny was a beastman or not. Evren says the physician said it's impossible. Ahin says that it doesn't matter anyway because he'd be eating the bunny tomorrow. Vivi furiously wonders if they don't have anything besides her to eat. Evren notices the sun setting and placing Ten on the bed. He asks to be excused and wishes Ahin to sleep well. Vivi is fearful that Evren is leaving and now she has to be alone with Ahin. Later that night, Ahin is fast asleep with Ten next to him. She's frustrated as she can't find an opportunity to run away. Besides, even if she escaped from here, it'd still be hard to make it out of the territory. And even if she made it out of the territory somehow, she wouldn't have a home to go back to. She watches Ahin as he sleeps and thinks that he is pretty. He seems a bit scary to her, but if it wasn't for him, she'd have died at the time. Vivi's current situation is dreadful, but he hasn't done anything to her in particular, so she feels grateful to him. She tries to reach for him with her paw when suddenly, Ahin is wide awake, leaving Ten feeling embarrassed. Vivi hides under a pillow in embarrassment after Ahin catches her looking at him in his sleep. He tells her she'd suffocate and takes the pillow off her. She looks upset, so he asks her if she's crying again. Vivi isn't crying. She's just upset over memories of her parents telling her how much they had to suffer because of her scandals, and that she doesn't have a partner because she's so shameful. Even her brother, Kyrie, had said that she should give up and that he would catch a rabbit for her and put them both together. Even the butlers and servants slacked off, thinking that Ten couldn't talk and complained to her parents, no matter what they did. Ahin asks her if she is afraid of being eaten. She nods to say that she is, and Ahin replies that then she should cry more. Vivi wonders why he's so obsessed with tears and tries to cry, but the tears won't come out. Disappointed, Ahin goes back to sleep and says that she lacks the sincerity, and she should put more effort to cry, and then he would eat her the day after tomorrow. He then puts her next to him to sleep and asks her not to move around and disturb him, and Ten thinks that he's so mean. The next morning, Ahin throws Vivi to Mamie, a servant, and leaves. Vivi happily waves goodbye and wishes he doesn't come back. Then, Mamie tells her that she would be her companion upon Ahin's orders. Vivi and Mamie's daily routines consisted of fun activities such as a cool house tour, relaxing bath time, delicious meal time, and exciting walks in the park. The house seems to be huge, so Ten wonders if Ahin is a noble. But Ahin is referred to as the young master, so she assumes he must be the owner's son. She reminisces of his evil face when he had said that he would eat her the day after tomorrow. Soon, she is distracted by the sight of the entrance gate. Mamie is busy talking to someone, so Ten plans her escape. She notices a small gap in the open gate and thinks that it would be enough for her to run out of. So she dashes towards the gate as fast as she can, but before she can make it out, a sword comes flying from behind her and lands right in front of her, blocking her path. She skids and hits her head on the sword and falls down, holding her head. As she's wondering where the sword came from, Mamie picks her up in her arms and says that it's dangerous out there while picking up the sword. Vivi is beyond shocked that she was the one that threw the sword and sighs at how strange the people here are. Later that night, Ahin arrives at his bedroom covered in blood. Hearing the noise, Ten looks up with one eye closed, only to be mortified at what she sees before her. Ahin takes a seat and Ten looks at him in worry after seeing how injured he is. Evren and the physician show up and Evren says that it was the werewolf's doing. While patching up Ahin's wounds, the physician says that the werewolves even use a smell that can numb a person's body these days. Evren tells Ahin that even if the wolves deny it's their doing, he would take care of the corpse and send it over to the wolf territory. Ahin orders him to send 30 people from their own side too, as that would be enough to take the neck off their senior official. After Ahin is bandaged up, the physician says he would come by in the morning and leaves. Ahin suddenly spots Vivi sitting underneath a piece of furniture. Evren says that she's just as clever as the person who brought her here, and Ahin asks if he's really going to link it like that. Holding out his hand, Ahin asks Ten to come to him. She hesitantly climbs onto his palm. Ahin also says that she's very clever for a rabbit because she understands what he's saying. Evren then says there's some things that are hard to explain if she's really a beast. Ahin asks Evren if he's talking about the people they took care of when they found 10. Evren says that he ordered for the bodies to be retrieved today, but the Black Panthers tore it apart. Hearing this, 10 feels terrified and Ahin comments that she can read the atmosphere well. He rubs her head while asking Evren to leave and 10 wriggles around, trying to get him to stop. A while later, Ahin lies in bed with 10 in his palm. She looks at him and thinks that he must be in pain. She wonders what happened with the wolves and then she notices that Ahin is staring at her intently. He holds her close to him and sniffs her neck. He says to her that she smells of pheromones. Vivi can't believe this because it's a smell that only appears on beasts that become human. Ahin suspects that she's a rare species. He places her next to him and covers her with a blanket and thinks to himself that he shouldn't have killed them all. Vivi looks up at him and wonders what he's thinking about. The next day, Ahin is sword training. Evren comes up to him and says that it would be better for him to rest today instead of training. Evren thinks how the number of times the Wolf Clan has invaded their territory has increased drastically, and because of that, the number of attacks on Lord Ahin, the clan leader's successor, from his maternal side has decreased. Evren says again that moving too much would put a strain on him, especially because he has a wound on his shoulder. To Evren's surprise, Ahin says that the wound is healed. Evren thinks how Ahin's recovery abilities are truly unparalleled. Ahin thinks that Evren doesn't believe him, but he doesn't blame him because Ahin himself was surprised when he noticed it all healed up. Ahin then tells Evren to focus on the noble families of the rabbit territory and investigate if any rabbits from those families have gone missing. A woman looks at 10 and asks Mamie if this is the rabbit that Ahin picked up. Mamie says yes, and the woman says that people are saying this bunny is a talkative one. Vivi looks up at her in realization that she's none other than Ahin's mother. Mamie tells her that is misinformation, but however, the bunny would be able to understand her to an extent. She asks Mamie to step away for a while as she wants to talk to the bunny. It's been 10 days since 10 came to this residence, and right now, she's in front of Ahin's mother, who is the person with the most influence in the house. She asks 10 to hold out her hand and 10 offer her his paw. Next, she asks her to show her leg, which 10 also does. She then asks 10 to sit down and 10 obediently sits down. The woman pauses to take a look at 10 and then pats and rubs her, saying that she's adorable. She says that Ahin is raising her as food. Vivi thinks how during the past few days, she's been spending time with Mamie, and during Evren coming over to throw a fit and even tolerating Ahin's bullying every night. She's mad that all this was just for her to gain weight to become food. Then, she realizes that she can't really do anything as she's just a mere bunny. The woman notices her fretting and says that if she wanted to live long, she'd have to not be so obedient to Ahin all the time. She says when a predator loses interest in its prey, it can easily devour you. Vivi thinks that he might bite her with his huge fangs if she rebelled. She then tells 10 that she just sensed a tiny bit of pheromones coming from her, and Vivi is bewildered. Later, 10 is in bed thinking about the words said to her by Ahin and his mother. She remembers how they were both able to smell pheromones from her. She's heard before that predators have heightened senses than herbivores, but she thinks that they both could have also imagined it. Although pheromones appear only after a human transformation is complete, sometimes there are exceptions. Yet again, she has visions of her family and servants who mocked her for not being able to transform. So she decides that she would try to turn human now as she has nothing to lose anyway. She sits up, concentrates and screams with the will and hope of transforming. Just when Ahin walks into the room, she turns around and hides her face in embarrassment. He goes up to her and says that the Wolf Clan conducted a surprise attack again today. He also says that he got hurt during it. Vivi opens one eye as soon as he mentions the word hurt. She looks at him to see bruises on his cheek. She does nothing, so he then asks her if she's not going to heal him. Vivi thinks why should she? Ahin asks her again if she's not gonna do it. She shakes her head at him, and so he picks her up and holds her over his mouth, saying that there's no use in keeping a rabbit that can't heal others. With her tiny paws, she tries to fight him off, and he asks again if she has a desire to heal now. She nods her head without a choice. Ahin puts her down and asks her to try it, pointing to his cheek. Vivi is confused as she has no idea how to heal him, so she does the first thing that comes to mind. She goes up to his face and licks his cheek. Ahin is taken aback, but he asks if this is healing. Vivi angrily thinks that she's just a rabbit and not a physician. And then to 10's surprise, Ahin says that this isn't bad. Ahin's mother sips on some tea and says how wonderful the weather is. Vivi agrees with her statement and thinks that her appetite is good as well while chewing on some grass. Ahin's mother tells her that the way she chews is so cute and asks her if she'd like some more, and Ten nods. The first time that Ten met Ahin's mother, she was very uncomfortable, but after spending more time with her, it's been enjoyable for her. Vivi loves it because she gets compliments from her even while eating food. Ahin's mother says that she's late to introduce herself and says that her name is Valence Grace. The last name Grace sounds familiar to Ten. It's a name that she's heard before. She tells Ten to call her Mrs. Valence. Vivi thinks that she wouldn't be able to call her that since she can't talk. She then tells Ten to stop breathing for a while and think about repressing her arteries. Vivi is flabbergasted but does it anyway. As she continues to do so, she feels different. She wonders what this feeling is. After a moment, she's done and Valence tells her that it worked and that she finished off well. She asks Ten to remember this sensation. Later on, Ahin is traveling with Evren, who's holding Ten in his arms. Ahin taunts her with a toy and says that if she cannot catch it, he would eat her up. She tries hard to catch it but isn't able to do so. So Ahin mocks her by saying that she's a fat rabbit and she can't catch it because her legs are too short. Hearing this, Ten gets grumpy. Evren tells Ahin that he's going to be disliked by Ten at this rate as she's already looking at him with contempt. Ahin says he prefers this gaze. So, Evren tells Ten to keep disliking Ahin in the future. Vivi thinks how annoying they both are. Out of the blue, they both brought her to this carriage and didn't even tell her where they're going, but now they're asking her to keep disliking Ahin. Vivi still tries to catch the toy and Ahin says she's invincible while Irvin says she might be the first fighter rabbit. Hearing this, Ten tries to kick Irvin. Ahin says that it looks like Irvin is disliked too. Vivi watches the scenery outside the window. It's the first time she has gone outside like this. She's glad to see it up close. Irvin notices this and holds her closer to the window so she has a better view. She sees buildings and foliage and people and children. Vivi watches in amazement. It's different from what she had heard or read in books. She wonders if she would also be able to roam around and explore the world by herself like this someday. But she's immediately pulled back by Ahin, who keeps her close to him. The driver informs them that they'd arrive soon. When they reach, they get off with Ten inside Ahin's pocket. She wonders what this place is that they've traveled so long for. She peeps out to see a huge building. She immediately recognizes this place as the temple and trembles in fear. Vivi remembers everything that was said to her before. Every insult about how she wasn't able to transform runs through her mind. She doesn't want to go to the temple. She panics and wonders if they brought her here because they sense pheromones coming off her to figure out her true identity. Ahin pushes her back in her pocket and asks her to keep quiet. Evren asks why she's acting that way and Ahin says he has no idea. They walk to where the priest is waiting. The moment Ten sees him, she remembers how he had told her that she's been cursed. Ahin puts Ten down on a table and asks her to stay there. She looks up at him without reacting. So he taps her head and asks her to answer. So Ten nods her head and Ahin leaves her behind and goes up to the priest. Ahin says to the priest that it's been a while since he met him. The priest says it's the first time since the festival of the animal god. He says he feels honored that Ahin himself has come to him. Vivi watches, wondering what they're talking about. She thinks they're talking about her and hopes she doesn't hear the same words that were said to her before. The priest had told her that she's a child that's been abandoned by the animal god. Unable to take it anymore, she jumps down and runs towards a statue while the others tell her to stop. She keeps hopping away until she reaches the statue of the animal god. She then asks why she hasn't turned into a human yet and asks him if she's really under a curse. She cries, asking why she's the only one that lives like this. Ahin comes up to her and picks her up. He notices her crying and asks her if she doesn't like the temple. Her expressions show how much she hates the temple. Evren comes too and says that he didn't think she would run away in the temple, and Ten thinks that Evren is so slow. Ahin tells Evren she ran away because she doesn't like the temple. Evren says that he didn't know the rabbit is an atheist. Ahin says that it would be stranger for a bunny to have a religion. And Evren then says that if the bunny doesn't like the temple, they should return to the residence quickly, and Ahin agrees. Then, Evren gets close to Ten and says that he's just a servant and not a knight and requests her to not make such dashes and run away in the future. Ahin warns Evren to not talk to her so closely, and they all return home. A few hours later, Ahin is in bed with Ten by his side. He looks at her with intensity and Ten feels flustered that he's looking at her with his robe undone. So, she pretends to sleep. But he pokes her and calls her a crybaby. He plays with her ears and says that predators are said to be possessive. He tells her that sometimes, when their desire becomes excessive, they break their possessions and throw them away. Vivi jumps at him, thinking what he's even trying to say. He then tells her that it means that she is his property. Vivi ponders if he just threatened her. Valence Grace asks Vivi to take a few deep breaths slowly, and Vivi does exactly as she says. Valence then tells her to gather all her energy into her lower abdomen, as if she was going to conceal her pheromones. So, Vivi tries to do just that with full concentration. Valence then tells her that she does not have to rush it and also asks her to take it slowly. After that, she instructs Vivi to breathe in and out. Once again, Vivi does exactly as she has been told. After she is done, Vivi falls back on the pillow, while wheezing and feeling completely out of breath. Valence pats her and says that she did well. Vivi thinks how tough that was despite her practicing to control her pheromones every day after lunchtime. Vivi is now hopeful that her human transformation is not too far away. Valence shows Vivi a book and asks her if she can understand the writing on it. Vivi nods immediately as she knows how to read. She gives the book to Mamie and tells Vivi that she can read it whenever she has time because it could be quite helpful to her, and Vivi wonders what she means by that. Soon, Vivi sits in front of the huge book and flips through the pages one by one. She finds a page that talks about the theory of pheromones. Intrigued, she decides to read it. The book defines pheromones as an innate scent and aura that only an animal kin has. It manifests as unique abilities, offense methods, superior-inferior relations, etc. She knows about rabbit kin animals having well-developed animal pheromones. She wonders if she also has that ability, but then decides that she is not fast enough. She flips to another page about pheromones and sex. This is a section 10 knows very well because of the servants of the Rebian household who took advantage of her not being able to speak and always showed displays of affection to each other in her room, in front of her. She then hears a banging sound. Turning around, Vivi sees that it is Ahin and Everin. Ahin is having a laughing fit and Everin is giggling at the sight of a tiny baby rabbit reading a book. Still laughing, Ahin says that he wants to preserve this scene as a portrait. Vivi gets pissed off and Ahin feels like he is going to pass out from all the laughter. Everin asks Ahin to calm down because otherwise, the rabbit would be upset. So Ahin tries to hold in his laughter but fails, and Vivi just stares at them with anger. Later, Vivi is hopping around in the garden. She notices that both Valence Grace and Ahin are busy today. She wonders if something happened and a pair of hands picks her up. Vivi looks up and sees a man with pink hair. Vivi has no idea who he is. She has never seen him before, but she can't help noticing how beautiful his golden-colored eyes are. She wonders if he is part of the herbivore's animal kin because of the color of his eyes. The guy puts his hand over his nose and mouth and winces. He says that Vivi smells of Black Panther scent. That's when Ten notes that he has canines and realizes he is not a herbivore kin. So she immediately struggles to escape out of his hands and looks towards Mamie and calls out to her to help. Vivi wonders what kind of beast he is to show up here all of a sudden. The guy, Lord Maniance, continues to look at Vivi, who gets angry that he is staring at her. He then sniffs her and says there's such a strong Black Panther scent on her. Vivi understands he must be talking about Ahin and tries to kick Maniance away. Mamie interrupts this by asking Maniance to put the rabbit down. Just then, Ahin shows up and Vivi is so glad to see him. Maniance tells Ahin that it is unexpected that Ahin would raise a rabbit. Ahin orders Vibi to come to him, so Maniance puts her down and Ten gladly hops away to stand behind Ahin's leg. Maniance asks Ahin how long he's had this kind of hobby. Ahin takes Vivi in his arms and says that Vivi smells disgusting like a dirty lion. Vibi thinks how ridiculous this is because both Ahin and Maniance are the ones who smelled her, and yet, here they were complaining. That's when Ten realizes that Maniance is actually a lion. She freaks out and throws a fit. She tells herself that she should not even be here. Ahin watches her closely and asks if she just wants to go to the lion instead. Vivi shakes her head to say no. Ahin takes this as a yes and says that she wants to be eaten by the lion. Vibi gets angry again because she already said no. Ahin then tells her to beg more if she wants to live. Vivi feels shocked. Ahin asks her again if she won't beg. She folds her arms and looks away and asks if he would do it if he was in her place. She continues to refuse to do so, and Maniance says that the rabbit likes him more than Ahin. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Ahin says that it can't be and says Playboy. Vivi looks up, confused. He says that a Black Panther is banned from double marriages and turns around and walks away. Maniance says that Ahin is still a crazy bastard, and Vivi agrees that it's a good description of Ahin. Later, Ahin sits at his desk and in frustration, thinks of the lion scent on him. Then, Everin hands Ahin the information he had asked for regarding the rabbit territory. Everin states that there was no missing rabbit among the rabbit aristocracy. He says they even expanded their search to middle-rank rabbits and they still found no missing rabbits. Ahin thinks to himself that Vivi is a very mysterious rabbit. So Everin says that Vivi might not be a shapeshifter, but there is a chance she could not be from a normal race. Ahin then realizes that he's been raising the bunny for a month now, but it still hasn't grown at all. She just only become fatter. Everin says that it's all thanks to Madame Valence, as she was the one who made Vivi gain weight. Ahin thinks to himself as he knows that smell was definitely pheromones. Everin then has an idea. He says he would personally ask the rabbit by himself. Ahin says the rabbit would hate him if he did that. He says how Ten had torn up all the books he had brought last time. Ahin says Everin is quite weird as he seems to like the bunny. Everin says that he never wants to hear this from his master or anyone. Ahin threatens Everin to say that again, and Everin recites that Ahin is the light of his life. Then Ahin asks him to shut up and Everin complies. Ahin goes through the papers. It is the first time Ahin has heard of a beast abandoning their own child. There's a rumor that the child was born out of wedlock. Ahin wonders if the bunt had really been thrown away. So, Ahin tells Everin that if there are people looking for that rabbit, he should kill them all. Mamie gives Ten a bath and apologizes to her for not helping her earlier with Lord Maniance. She says that Lord Maniance is a high-ranking person who comes as a representative from the Lion Clan whenever he wants to negotiate with them. She says to Vivi that a servant like her can't go against him. She advises Vivi to not go outside on the days that Lord Maniance visits them. Vivi agrees with her and tries to sniff herself to see if she still smells like a lion. She hopes that she does not, as she doesn't want to be picked on by Ahin. Later, Ahin asks Ten if she still smells of that lion or if she got rid of it. Vivi feels angry to be questioned like this by him. She wonders if he can't see her soft fur that has just been washed and cleaned. Everin tells Ahin that it has been a month since the rabbit came to the mansion and asks him if they should name it. He says that everyone just calls her as Bunny, but he wants her to have an actual name. Ahin tries to poke her cheek playfully as she fidgets around. He then says that the bunny must already have a name. Vivi is startled as she didn't expect him to know this. Then, Everin excuses himself to leave. Vivi then sees Ahin setting up something on the floor. Before she can figure it out, Ahin picks her up by the neck. Vivi angrily thinks that she has human rights too to be picked up by the neck like this. Ahin warns her that he would eat her if she kept staring at him. He then drops her beside a plate of ink, making her dip her paws in it. She gets upset and moves her arms around, splashing ink on Ahin's face too. Ahin then asks her to write her name down. Vivi is surprised at this. She wants to say that she's just a rabbit and not a person, but she's already frustrated that she can't talk even though she has so many questions. He tells her that naming animals can make you feel closer to one another. He insists that their relationship would be better off if he knew her name. So Ten swipes her paws on a piece of paper to write her name, and when she's done, she falls to the floor thinking how hard it is just to write a name. Ahin reads it and says her name out loud. Vivi wonders why he is saying it like that. He picks her up and puts her close to his mouth. With her back facing him, she feels his canines on her back. Ahin goes to bite her while asking her to stay calm. He says that he would erase the lion smell and gives her a bite while she closes her eyes tightly. To Vivi, it feels weird and strange. She feels like her heart is pounding and she feels like she's losing strength. And then, she senses Ahin's pheromones which feel like they're suffocating her. When Ten wakes up, the bedroom is dark. She realizes she must have fallen asleep. However, she still feels nauseous. She notices Ahin sleeping beside her on the bed. She thinks how mean he is for sleeping so comfortably while she is passed out on the floor. She then wonders why Ahin never asked about her and who she is. She wonders if he does not want to know who she is. Reaching out, she touches his face with human hands, thinking how warm he feels to the touch. At the Levian family mansion, Vivi's mother wonders why there is no news about her yet. She knows there are no loyal employees of the family who would have failed to do what she asked them to. She thinks that the Black Panthers must have gotten to her. Kyrie, Vivi's brother, says that maybe Ten crossed the border, went into the forest and was hunted. She says that the forest is close to the Grace family residence. She hopes that none of those family members have gotten involved with this. Kyrie says that it is a good thing if they found Vivi, as they would have taken care of her. He then asks his mother to send someone to investigate if she is so nervous. Kyrie says that even if she was eaten by a Black Panther, there would not be a body or bones left behind, and the mother says that he's right. In the morning, Vivi looks at herself in the mirror. She is disappointed to see that she is still a little bunny. She thought she would see her human self when she woke up because of what had happened last night. Ahin notices her breakdown and asks her what she is doing all of a sudden. Vivi sighs, gets to her knees and says that she is all done. She then says that he is a Black Panther after all, so he would not understand her. Ahin asks Everin what is wrong with Ten as he just heard her sigh. Everin suggests that maybe the bunny is hungry as she looks thin. Ahin says that she just had breakfast. Meanwhile, Ten is frustrated that these two are foolishly talking about something else entirely. Ahin then says that Evren might be right about the bunny being hungry. He says that she needs to gain weight to be ready to be eaten. He goes up to Ten and says that the lion smell is gone. He starts to say that if there's any smell on her like last time, he would do something to her. Before he can complete his sentence, Ahin realizes he is late and leaves. Vivi feels exasperated at this and says she wants to know what he would do to her. Later, Ten takes a stroll with Mamie when she comes across Valence. Valence says that it is her first time running into her like this. Vivi immediately hops up to her and runs around her, saying that she wants to tell her about what happened last night. Vivi can't speak or write at the moment, so she decides to act it out. Using facial expressions and hand gestures, Vivi explains to Valence how Ahin opened his mouth and bit her with his teeth and how after that, she got dizzy. After seeing this, Valence snaps her fingers and says she understood her. She assumes Vivi has not eaten any lunch and asks Mamie to tell the chef to prepare hay from the Eastern Territories immediately. Outraged, Mamie thinks that it's only been an hour since the bunny had breakfast, but she tells Valence that she would do it. Vivi hops up and down trying to tell them both that is not what she meant. Valence misunderstands this and assumes she is jumping out of happiness. In the forest, a few people walk around searching for something. They come across a skull and a set of bones and realize that it is a beast's bone. As the people analyze the bones of the beast on the ground, they think that it is weird because it would not be easy for a bunny to outrun a couple of Black Panthers. They wonder why it's taking them so long to confirm that Vivi is dead. Suddenly, the people hear a voice saying that they crossed the boundary again. They frantically turn around to see none other than Ahin. They ask him who he is and Ahin says that he was gonna ask that as well. The people soon realize that Ahin and Evren are from the Black Panther clan after noticing Ahin's red eyes. Ahin asks them if they are looking for a rabbit, leaving them flabbergasted. Ahin then tells them that he picked up the rabbit. They ask him if the bunny is still alive and Ahin asks them if they want it back. They say they don't, but if Ahin was willing to give it back they would take it. Evren comments that they sound very suspicious. He says that they look like secret spies and that he could never trust them with the bunny. He also says that the bunny is now officially Lord Ahin's emergency food supply and requests them not to take her away. Ahin tells Evren that was a lot of unnecessary words, and Evren says that he said it just in case the people might be scheming to kidnap the rabbit. So, Ahin says that is why he is here to kill them. They quietly talk amongst themselves, wondering if they should step down as they are now at a disadvantage. They decide to flee the territory by scattering. One person gives them the cue and they all try to run away, but they soon fall down to their knees. They realize that this energy comes from the pheromones of a beast. They look up to see Ahin with a few Black Panthers. Ahin orders them to eat the people up. They pounce on them and shred their clothes, and Ahin walks up to one of them, points his sword at him and says that he has a question. When asked what the question is, Ahin says he wants to know what the rabbit is. Evren comments that Ahin looks like a villain right now and Ahin asks him to shut up. The guy does not say anything, so Ahin stabs his leg with his sword in order to get him to talk. He still doesn't, so Ahin says he would just ask the intruders who cross the boundary next time and goes to stab him with the sword and kill him, but he is immediately stopped by the guy, who says that the rabbit is a shapeshifter. Ahin tells him that he has never seen her turn into a human before, so he asks if she is still a baby bunny. The guy says that she is 18 and she did not shapeshift even after she came of age. He then says that she is a monster. After killing him, Ahin is upset that he forgot to ask them about Vivi's family. Evren apologizes, saying that it did not cross his mind either. He says that if she is 18, she is the same age as Ahin, so it is unbelievable that she has not been able to turn human yet. Ahin asks him back if it makes sense for a rabbit to understand their language and read books. Evren says that Ahin always knew that Ten was a shapeshifter. Ahin says that he knew that it was only to an extent. So, Evren asks him why he turned a blind eye to it when he already suspected that the bunny was a shapeshifter. Ahin simply says that Evren is funny and Evren says that is too much. Then, Ahin says that when he falls asleep, he feels like he wants to eat the bunny. He says he feels like he turns into a real beast. Ahin thinks to himself that Vivi is very docile but troublesome. The power of pheromones are responsible for several other processes. Its value is not something that should be taken lightly. Ahin did not expect Ten to be 18 years old, but if she was a rabbit with limited access to places, then it would be easier for him to keep an eye on her. Evren asks Ahin to explain in detail about what he meant when he said she makes him feel like a beast. Ahin just calls him annoying and Evren retorts that he is petty. Hearing this, Ahin says that it has been a while since Evren has been chased by wolves. With a snap of his fingers, he calls Ash. Black Panthers appear and Ahin says that it is dessert time. Evren nervously tells the Panthers to calm down. He tries to tell them that he has been with them for a long time. He asks them not to forget about their time together. Ahin tells the Panthers to wipe that annoying mouth off of Evren. Evren tells Ahin that tearing apart his mouth would be equal to taking his life. He tells Ahin how mean he is when he notices the Panthers chasing him. Evren runs for his life and Ahin wishes him to have a safe trip. In Ahin's room, Ten is reading a book while thinking that Ahin is late today. She reads a paragraph and thinks that it seems familiar, like she has read it before. It states that in some cases, if the inherent pheromones are too powerful, there is a chance of the shape shifting to be delayed. In fact, a fox with an abundance of pheromones had turned into a human at the age of 5, which is much later than it was supposed to. So Ten realizes that powerful pheromones might slow down shape shifting, but in the case of the fox, it was able to turn human by the age of 5. So Ten thinks that her situation might be different than the fox. At first, this peculiar phenomenon only appeared in members of the fox clan. Vivi then notices that the maid has been acting suspicious for a while. She sees her picking up the vase or cleaning random things. She looks at Vivi out of the corner of her eye and asks Ten to come to her. She reaches out for her, but Ten is very vigilant and hops away from her. Vivi thinks that she seems too sly to be an ordinary servant. The maid keeps staring at Vivi, and when she least expects it, she tries to grab her. Vivi manages to dodge her again while hoping someone comes to help her. All of a sudden, she turns into a big wolf towering over Vivi. Vivi fearfully looks at the wolf heading closer and closer to her. The wolf opens its mouth, baring its sharp teeth. Vivi prepares to run and dashes away from the wolf while thinking why its eyes were red when Black Panthers are the ones that have red eyes. She keeps running until she is at the railings of the balcony. It seems to be a dead end. Vivi thinks to jump from here, but it is too high for her. Standing on the edge, she hopes that someone comes to help her. That is when she hears a familiar voice calling out her name. She looks below to see Ahin, who asks her what she is doing up there. Upon another glance, Ten sees that Maniance is there too. She cries in happiness at the fact that Ahin is here to help her. She waves her arms at him, trying to say that there is a wolf here. Ahin thinks she is saying hi, so he waves back at her with a smile on his face. He also tells Lord Maniance to wave at her. Vivi cannot believe how idiotic they both are. She continues to do the same action, hoping they would get the hint. Ahin then asks Maniance what he thinks Ten is trying to say. Maniance replies that he does not know, and so Ahin says that he is still useless. By now, the wolf is right behind Vivi. The wolf tries to slash her with its claws, but Ten manages to escape while thinking why the wolf is chasing her. Ahin and Maniance continue to talk without helping, so Ten has no choice and jumps off the balcony. She keeps falling while screaming until she lands softly right on top of Ahin's head. Ahin picks her up and asks her if she is a thrill seeker for jumping so suddenly. Vivi is just glad to be alive. Meanwhile, Maniance says that it smells weird. They look up at the balcony and think that there must be a wolf there. Just then, Mamie comes running to find Ten, who is beyond happy to see her. Seeing this, Maniance says that he does not know what the issue was, but it has probably been solved now. Ahin tells Vivi not to cry. She is taken aback after hearing this, as he always tells her to cry more. Maniance just watches them in confusion. So that is it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. So if you like the video, then hit that like button and leave a comment for the next part. Most important, subscribe and press the bell icon for notification. I will meet you in the new video. Till then, bye.